Oh, hello, everybody.
Which cartoon character do I have the pleasure of meeting today over there?
This one is I'm Robert. Spelled with the
Hello,
with the P.
Robert. Oh my goodness, that was pretty solid though. I don't think I can. I do not have that type of voice in me. I don't.
You
think
don't.
it's in
Oh
there.
man, I used to do weird voices all the time as a kid. I spent a lot of time watching anime by myself in a house, so I guess that kind of makes sense why we are here. At least my journey, my origin story.
Well, you know what? You don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to be all by yourself because you are on the Grand Line Tourist, a chapter-by-chapter examining or re-examining of Eiichiro Oda's One Piece. I, Jacob Jarecki, am your tourist, and our formerly lonely friend over there, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Eric Voot, your guys' tour guide, trying currently to take a screenshot of my panel for the panel battle later on in the episode, but it's not.
And he's
it's not
struggling. I can tell by the look on his face.
I am. It's it's a little bit of a pain to get, and I think it's because the panel's so unique shaped. Okay, I think that's the best I'm gonna get for this one. But
That's okay. Worst case, we can pull it up.
That is an Ichiro Oda foreshadow if I've ever seen one in the middle of my own introduction. Yes, Eric Voot, tour guide, taking you all, Jacob included, in this journey through Ichiro Oda's One Piece. I'm excited to be here. The weather is grand over here. It's hot. My room
It's a bit hot over here, too.
It's in disarray. My room's in disarray. It's hot over there, too, where you're at?
Yeah, no, it's hotter than usual over here. Usually it's been a bit colder the night, but it didn't get as cold this past night. And so right now I had to turn off the fan because it was making a bad buzzing noise. So I put myself into the inferno for all the tourists out there and tour guides. So this one's for you.
That's what it is. But you know what? Enough about us and the weather killing airtime. Let's just jump into it. I'm gonna pass on this itinerary to you. I'm gonna pass it to Robert, who's gonna pass it to you. And now you have to do it. Look at that. Look at that.
That's right. And you know what? Today, before accepting your wonderful gift of the itinerary, we have some letters at port. We have some all you tourists and tour guides. Yeah. We have we got some cool messages coming up. So, friend of the podcast, Christian, wrote in, and he just has a very, very interesting message. All I got to say is, welcome, Jacob, to your first overly convoluted anime plot.
Yes.
It got me excited. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Sometimes it's fun when things go extreme, right? You don't want to go like, it's kind of convoluted. No, overly convoluted anime plot. I am ready for it.
Yep, this is that. I've been so used to these tropes because I've been an avid anime fan for majority of my life. So I just think I didn't notice it, and I just kind of laugh it off every time I see it. So this must be it's fun. It is cool that Christian here obviously is a anime fan himself. Has trying to you're kind of in the group now, Jacob. You're in the in crowd.
Yes.
You can sit at our lunch table now that you've been exposed to the convoluted.
Oh, I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Yeah, we only wear pink on Wednesdays though. That's the only.
That's okay. Yeah. As long as I get to be at the table.
Yeah, but no, for reals though. Pink only on Wednesdays.
I want to be at the lunch table where it happens.
Oh, look at that. We have so many references going all at once.
I know. It's gonna really date our podcast.
I know. Hopefully someone one day is going to hear all of these references, and I just want them to write it down to send it to us, and I'll be very happy.
It's probably pretty complicated, the web of like what we tend to bring up most. But you know what? I gotta bring up somebody else wrote in today.
What?
And
this is
that is crazy. This is crazy.
I can also before you read it, I have to say it's almost poetic because there's also something that happens in all of One Piece for the first time in this chapter also. So I'll wait though.
Oh my goodness.
That's another
okay.
Ichiro Oda foreshadow. Okay. Go for it.
Today we also had Peter write us in with a lovely email that we're going to go into more detail when we get to the panel battle section of our podcast because Peter has a few things to say, and he actually provided a panel for Chapter 27, so that's coming in ahead of time. That's crazy. That was lined up.
And he's throwing the first punch.
He's throwing the first punch.
He's throwing the first one, man. He's throwing the first panel in our faces, being like, bring it. There it is.
And the other few things that he wrote about in his email was that he gave us a little bit of a gift of knowledge. He gave us a recommendation. There is a wonderful book called Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art, by Scott McCloud, which I have read. Have you had a chance to read it, Eric? Or have you heard of it before?
I haven't read it, so it was really cool that you sent this over.
The tourist has become I've one up the tour guide in this particular fashion. It is a wonderful nonfiction book that is told in comic form about comics. It's kind of like a history and introduction to comics, and it is quite good. So, encouragement to all the other tourists out there that want to get a little bit more knowledgeable. And then Peter also wanted to share that he wants to thank the two of us for starting this journey so that it can be shared with all you out there. And P.S., because it was proposed in a previous podcast, he demands that Eric draw a chibi buggy for him. So get your pencil out, get your paper.
Such a bad artist. So this
all the better.
It's gonna be so bad, but I'll try my best. It sounds like fun, actually. It sounds like a fun little goal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best.
No, soon you're gonna be like, you know what, Jacob, I don't have time to do this podcast. I got my own one shot that I need to send out to a couple distribution companies,
man.
see
I'm
if they
already
can get accepted.
stressing out about one drawing of a chibi buggy. Of one shot assumes that I'm drawing multiple panels of chibi buggy that I don't know if I could do.
Tinfoil time. Eric eventually becomes a full-time manga comic creator.
I don't even know if I'm allowed to be a mangaka because I'm like not even. I don't know. I'm not Japanese, so they just make me a comic book artist.
Okay, well, you can be a manga-influenced, comic creator.
There we go. There it is. Now we're in the right place. You know what? We're at port for too long. Let's get through it. Let's talk about this.
We got an itinerary today. We got chapter 27 entitled True Lies. Kaya buys Klahadore a nice pair of glasses.
That was so dramatic.
Since, she noticed. Well, I mean, it's. I think it was just such a. I was a bit surprised by this move, and I thought it was awesome. She noticed his glasses keep on slipping, and for that 3-year house servant anniversary, that I don't know what years 1 and 2 are. Year 1 a letter, year 2 something else, year 3 something practical. Glasses that aren't going to slip off Klahadore's nose. Usopp is chased by the townsfolk and not being able to convince them that there is these dastardly pirates coming. He gets all the way to Kaya's home, and he takes down 2 guards and tries to force Kaya to run away with him because she's not believing him. So he's like, I'm just going to have to get you out of here. And she, unbelieving, slaps him. And, it's pretty rough. He runs away unsuccessful and is also shot by a character who I didn't realize had a name, our goat butler, Mary. I just realized that now. I wrote Ram Butler through all of my notes. But he does have it may be Ram. I just said goat. I'm not exactly sure. It's a creature looking like Butler,
Right. But his name is Mary, and we need to call him by Mary.
No. This may have been the introduction of his name. I'm not totally sure.
No,
but,
he has a character box that you and I have just. It's just been a little while.
We've ignored him. That's okay.
Right. And it's been a while since we recorded, so.
And then Usopp goes on to encounter his little cupcake carrot pirate friends, and he laughs and says, I made it up. I made it all up, and we learn that he's doing that to protect them, so that they don't go and offer to fight with him when he tries to defend his town. But Luffy and his crew are so, emotionally moved by this desire to protect his town that they offer to help themselves. And that is what goes on in Chapter 27. True Lies.
True Lies, which is, that really famous 90s movie. Doesn't it sound like the title of a 90s movie, True Lies? I feel like it might
makes
be
me think of True Detective as well. I just like it's very interesting.
Also, our last recording, our last chapter, I definitely had a session called "The Truth in Lies." So it's a lot of things. Too many accepted moments. What came first? Like chicken or the egg situation, right? So,
yeah.
All right, let's jump into discussions. My first thing I want to chat about is I'm calling this the repercussions of lies. Why?
Oh.
Yes, obviously this is the theme of this whole arc, right? It's lies and the effect of lies and how lies affect the people making lies and who gives lies, why do people lie? Like, there's so much in it. I totally missed I didn't miss it. I guess I just kind of saw the theme of lies the first time viewing this arc, like through the anime and even my reread like a few last year. I just kind of ignored it. But now that because this podcast, the structure of our podcast forces us to talk about each chapter and like figure out something to talk about, I like it a lot more. And now I like slowing down and really digesting what it is. So,
I think there might be an instinct to say, oh, this is just a boy who cried wolf story, and your mind probably just glosses over it once you kind of see that, and then it's like, I know enough about this, but there's more to it than that, I'd say.
Yeah, and I just think that this is such a very good arc. This is a good chapter for Usopp to kind of really see the seriousness of his lies at this point, right? Like now, literally no one can trust him, even though he's trying to save them, right? Like he's trying to save them, and he's trying to he's saying all of these things to try to get these folks to He said it a few times. He loves this place. He loves this village regardless of how they treat him. He still loves it. It is his home. He wants to say Kaya. And I think what's so sad about this is that Kaya, who is a person who's always... She said it too, who's always kind of loved his lies as long as they were... Like, she says it, right? I loved your lies that were like tall tales and romantic and about adventure, right? They were never... Essentially, like, they never hurt anybody. But this lie that you're saying about Klahadore, which isn't a lie, it's a true lie, right? Is what she says is like that's the most hurtful thing you've ever done, which is like breaking a little bit of her heart, because now
and I wanted to call out just that line again that you said, I loved your lies, coming from Kaya. That's probably one of my favorite moments of this chapter, just because it's such a intriguing thing to say, right? Like, because she knows that's how she got through her day, listening to Usopp, just having a good time, imagining different lives, but now the dark side of those lies has kind of come forth to haunt Usopp a little bit.
Yeah, and she says the big line of "You disappoint me, Usopp," in like big screaming letters, which is so... It's sad. It's kind of like when your mom says, "I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed."
Actually, that was one moment where I wasn't sure if I loved what potentially could be the translation, just because like I think I have too much tied up with like... I think there's just some line from Star Wars like, "You disappoint me," or something. And it didn't feel like that would be how two friends talk to each other. Like, I would never like, if you had, come unprepared to this episode, I probably wouldn't have stopped and said, "You disappoint me, Eric." And that's kind of what I got a vibe of here. It does totally make the importance of this to Kaya very clear, right? Like, she is saying, "Hey, this is not cool,"
Yeah, and I also, just to kind of point out a little bit of what you brought up in the beginning about, like, I didn't think we would spend time talking about her giving Klahadore a gift, which I think is super funny, because it's just one of those things of, like, I'm going to add more weight to the betrayal that's about to happen. Right? Like, it's one of those moves where, as, like, from a storytelling...
Hey, I still have my tinfoil prediction that Klahadore could flip. So,
that he can flip. Oh, right, that he's into.
Yeah, no. I think I predicted that last chapter or something. So hey, it may not be. This is the glasses are going to convince him otherwise. That's my hope.
Yes, that's what it is. He could flip. He could flip back. He's in too deep. Yeah. So just like I was saying, this is a big chapter to kind of reveal to Usopp, right? Like he says it at the end of this chapter. No one's gonna believe me. But I think what's really cool, and this is it kind of segues into the next section I want to talk about, is that rather than him being like this, like, forget all of them, right? Forget all of them, no one will believe me, I'll just leave them to die. He still chooses the very admirable stance of like, well, then I'll just take care of it myself. I'll fight myself.
Yeah. No, and even, I'm thinking now, I actually really was taken aback by the moment where he says, "Nope, I made it all up. I'm just actually lying." I originally thought that we were going for like, "Oh no, Usopp's cracked. Like he's gone insane." No, and then it was to protect the his pirate crew.
Yes, who are children. Yes.
Yes. No, and I thought that was it's interesting because like even in the midst of telling the true lie, he has to tell another actual lie in order to get the people that he cares about protected. So they don't come and help him. So just like, Oda definitely thinks of lying as a gray area that it can be good, can be bad. It's not your very simple tale of lies are bad.
And that's pretty much where I think. I mean, we talked about Shades of Grey a lot for of One Piece in general. 50 Shades of Grey One Piece in general, right? With morality and with even with the Navy and the pirates, and now about lies. He has
it's a black and white manga. There's lots of shades of gray on every page.
Nice, we're doing it. We're paid off. We have dissected and consumed every piece of that comedy cow that we've called Gray. So this leads to just the next thing that we're talking about, which is Usopp. I put Usopp the slingshot hero. How did you feel about this? Is a really like this is his fighting style, right? Because he uses a slingshot. And what's one thing we know about his daddy, Usopp?
His dad was a great shot, right?
Yeah.
Dagnabbit. I did not put it together until you just told me right now, but that is paying off our lineage there. Our lineage of Usopp via Usopp. We understand why he's a slingshot master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how'd you like this fight, this quick little fight scene?
Oh, I liked it a lot. Like, I think it was a very interesting fight dynamic because really what he was fighting for at that moment was the ability to stay longer in order to try to convince Kaya of something, right?
Which is just such
it's such an interesting thing to have to fight for. Like, usually you're like, I need to protect you because people are going to hurt you, right? And if, like, someone's going to hurt me, you can just kind of, like, get through them and run away. But this was, I need to fight in order to be able to stay longer to try to convince you of something. And very interesting dynamic, I think that wound up being.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. First off, I also have to point out that he's fighting this dude who pulls out guns on him.
Yeah, that's
right.
True.
Yeah, and he's a
far more pacifist, right? Running and then slingshotting is not so brutal.
I also have to point out that these guards must suck because he was a faster shot than their bullets. Right, like before they even drew, he already drew his, and loaded his slingshot before both of them. So he kicks both their butt.
I probably didn't pay enough attention. Were they pulling out pistols or rifles?
Pistols. They're the old pirate pistols.
No, that feels like they should be able to have a pistol ready to go. I guess that just speaks to the lineage of Usopp there. It's in his blood to be able to draw quick.
Yeah, he's a shooter, right? Like he gonna get you. Sort of deal, which is cool. I thought,
and I think the way that those panels are done, there's such your mind fills in so much space. Like there's moments where you're like, oh, there's another guard over there, and then like you just kind of visualize what's happening to Usopp. Like you're like, oh, the only way he can be in that position now is if he drew really fast, right? Mm-hmm. And so you kind of put it together in a very cool manner, I think.
Yeah, I think because you see, like, just a quick little shot of the guy pulling out his gun for the first time, right? Like, because one, he bites the guy first, and I will say, he doesn't pull out his slingshot until he sees the guy pull out start moving to pull out his gun. And I'm just noticing this now, but there's a cool little thing that Oda is employing here. Do you see, I'm looking, there's a panel where where the guard is pulling out his gun for the first time, Usopp has a quick little, like, action splat right next to his head, and that's like, in my understanding, that's him recognizing that the guy's pulling out a gun.
I see. Yeah,
and he only does it twice. He does it twice in this kind of 2-page fight scene here. Once when the first guard pulls out his gun, and then when the other guy who he just bit pulls out his gun, he gets the same quick little click click, like it's a action split, showing us as the audience members that, like, he's noticing it, he notices it, right? Like he's receptive to all these things. Really cool.
No, it's. Yeah, it's like, wait, and you think that click is like of the cocking of the gun, right?
I think it's over Usopp's eyes. It's really close to his eyes. I think that's him. It's kind of like the click of him noticing, like, it's not like a audible click. I think it's his brain going, see the gun, right? Like you see him pulling a gun. You need a quick draw type of thing. Okay.
No, that's interesting. No, yeah, I think again that happens twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, the kind of
these more dense action sequences, like, they do put your brain through a lot of effort to, like, if you want to know precisely what's going on, right? It is it's kind of like a little puzzle, but it's also very well told, so it's not too hard to figure out.
He is very cool in this panel here. He's very cool, like, kind of like, as a little kid, I always thought slingshots were so cool, and to see Usopp, like, rock it in this little sequence, I think little kid Eric would have thought he was so cool. I still think he's cool. Like, the little Eric in me is still very, very impressed with Usopp.
Did little Eric ever engage in any local neighborhood slingshot battles?
My dad used to make me slingshots, and I was terrible at them. But my dad was great with slingshots. I can never do it. And then my dad always warned me, like, if you shoot a bird, you need to, like, eat it.
Whoa!
Yeah,
whoa. You have to eat it?
Yeah, because he was like, don't aim at birds unless you're gonna, like, eat it, son. Like, don't do it. Yeah, it was just to teach me kind of like. Because I always thought that you would do it to shoot birds. I thought birds were targets. Essentially, my dad was trying to teach me, like, they're not a target. You're killing something. So if you're going to kill it, you got to eat it. And, to my dad's word, the one time that he did accidentally hit a bird with a BB gun or something, he did eat that bird.
I cooked it and ate it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure I was.
He did cook it and eat it. Whether or not it was hand turning, I don't know. But it's just one of the things where I was like, man, my dad following through with his moral well-being. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, he's looking at that bird thinking, I wish I didn't have a son because then I wouldn't know how to eat this damn bird. But right now I got to show that I'm a consistent person.
Right, that I'm consistent. And he did that. This was me in college when this happened. So it wasn't even like me as a kid when he accidentally shot this bird. This was like me in college and I came home and he was telling me this story that he had to do it because he did it, right? But it must be something that he learned from his dad or something too in the previous or something.
No, this is sometimes your parents pass on the lineage of being able to shoot really well. Sometimes they pass on the lineage of the knowledge of what to do when you do happen to actually get a hit on a target that you
man, you gotta take responsibility for the death the life you just took, sort of deal.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, I have to say before we move on past all of this, I do like your point about why he's fighting so hard in this moment and why he looks so cool. I like what you said about how he's fighting for the ability to tell Kaya more that I'm trying to convince you to leave.
Yeah, no, it's kind of tragic because the payoff is great if he convinces her at some point, but in this case, it's kind of like it's a moot battle, right? He doesn't actually get to make his point successfully, and he just went on,
And it ends up being Mary who shoots him in the hand. Like, did you see that? Like, whoa!
I mean, Mary. We got to learn more about Mary's past lineage. That's a good shot.
Mary the Ram shoots him in the hand as he runs away, which is pretty much everything.
And I think that's a pretty tragic moment. Maybe, as opposed to focusing on this grievous wound that Usopp has. Are you ready to laugh our way out of there?
Not yet.
Oh.
I have to say, today we received another letter report, which is a turning point for our podcast. How awesome and almost poetic even that this is the first time Ichiro Oda does the SBS corner, which is a mail-in time in
I can't believe it. I actually wrote down in my notes to bring that up too because I did really enjoy reading it, and I actually wanted to ask, what does SBS stand for?
I think it's an acronym for the term in Japanese. I actually pulled it up here. SBS, I think, stands for Ask Me. I'm taking questions. Tisuman o Bushi Suro.
Okay, yeah, no, and then in the one I have, it puts right next to it question corner so that we know what's going on as well.
Yeah, and you have the food boys there too. So I did my research to see if this is really the first time, but SBS corners are actually kind of a very famous thing for One Piece readers because a lot of weird world building canon things are answered in this moment in these question corners. For example, in this one. Don't we get one of the question is how old everybody is?
Yes, and actually, if you don't remember the answer, do you remember how? If you had to say, what do you think Luffy's age is?
Oh, I have the answers right here, so you can.
Oh, you have the answer. I have it too. I don't know if I would have said Luffy was 17. I might have guessed younger.
I think we both guessed younger because I slightly remember us talking about their age. About the age of in regards to their drinking age, because we were like, are they even old enough to drink? And then I retorted by the fact that they're pirates and also not real characters, and that the drinking age in the East Blue is off the wall crazy. But yeah, I agree with you. 17 was a lot older than I thought, but that makes a little more sense because then that means that he was 7 during Romance Dawn during Chapter 1.
Yeah, it works out. It's just slightly. It's just like a few years more than I would have guessed, but it totally works, and it's not like. He can't fit that age with the way he looks. It just wasn't the first guess I would have had, but I like it.
Yeah, so this is really cool. The SBS corner is such a fun little thing to read because most of the time I'm assuming in the beginning it was a lot of kids, but I do think eventually it ends up being a lot of adults asking him questions.
Well, kids grow up, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. And this thing has been with us since 97, 98. So. Yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to see if we get what you think of for the next ones. But there anything else you wanted to point out specifically with the SBS corner or anything?
No. I want to have a quick discussion about just pretty much the ages, and then I just call out that I quite like it. It's a way to make you feel like you're really in conversation with the creator about their creation, and that's just a lovely thing to have.
Yeah, this is super cool. Eventually, they'll start asking about birthdays, and those birthdays are canon, and like there's a whole calendar of One Piece birthdays, right, that happen throughout the year, which is awesome. There's a bunch. He just answers a lot of stuff in the SBS corner, man. The SBS little pages, the columns that he does.
So, yeah. No, if there's ever a really, I don't know if the One Piece community has an official like most important birthday of all those, or if there's like, I don't know. I imagine like Luffy's birthday would be a pretty big deal. I don't know if we'll have to
celebrate, right? That'd be cool to see. We'll have to do our research, or somebody else can do the research for us. Oh.
Yeah, that sounds ideal.
All right. Well, we're already laughing, so let's just laugh a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only have one joke, as I'm sure. Maybe you have.
There's plenty. I think it's always good just to throw in some favorite ones and just I think just to reminisce on the fun that we had in the chapter. So which one did you have?
The only one I found that I thought was really funny was we got to get to the butcher before he leaves town.
I've got to buy some meat. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, which is because Nami's plan was like, well, they could just run into the hills. Pirates are stupid, right? And Luffy's like, oh no, dramatically, we need to get meat before the butcher runs away.
No, and actually, there was a lot of good jokes just around that section. I particularly liked, you already mentioned the pirates are pretty dumb, but also I think the three little pirates, they were saying they're like, oh, we got to go get our piggy bakes, our snacks, and our model ships. What else is there?
Cute. Yeah. Like, they're going to rummage it, or they're going to steal everything. So what? And like, it's what little kids would say are treasure and like, mean a lot to them, which is really cute.
Yeah. No, so I think they also called Luffy Mr. Straw Hat Man, which is just I think a great name for his character.
Yes. They're also kids, right? So it's really cool that they have like these little nicknames for
Mr. Straw Hat Man. Mr. Straw Hat Man.
That they've spent like a total of I don't know an afternoon with like the Straw Hats at this point.
Yeah.
Anything else on your end for jokes?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I'm actually ready to move on, if you are, to the
battle.
This is the section of our podcast where we both pick one of our favorite panels and discuss them, put them head to head, roll them around, see what happens, and we always encourage any tourists or tour guides out there to do the same themselves. And today, as we mentioned, that has actually happened with Peter ahead of time. So we actually have his panel for chapter 27, which is very exciting. So actually, I think I know the best way for this to go, and it's for you to send your panel first.
For me to send my panel first?
Yep, that's going to be the best way to do it.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. I think that's because you and Peter might share the same panel.
Oh, man, you're going to put on a little tinfoil hat there. Oh, my goodness. How could you predict that? You failed, Eric. You failed. We had a chance. You were correct in your assumption about what was going to happen with me and Peter, and so I thought there was a chance that I would scream right now if you had exactly the same panel that Peter and I had.
I would, but I didn't end up doing that. I ended up choosing this panel for the Peter. This is because describe the panel a little bit before I jump into my reasoning.
All right. So this is amidst the fight between Usopp and the other guards. We have a guard in the background yelling "Animal," and Usopp is pulling I believe one of his small slingshot bullets out of his pouch and getting ready to turn around and draw in order to shoot that guard in order to protect himself. And at this point, he's still trying to talk to Kaya. He wants to stay longer, so he's trying to take the guards out. And there is the in the middle, kind of on his shoulder, there's that like flash. Is that the flash of a?
That's what I was talking about earlier. It's the flash of him like.
Oh, I got it. No, you know what? I had misinterpreted what you said before. Now I know exactly what you're talking about, and so that's the flash of him. It's almost like, I mean, if we're to throw out references, we've done a lot today. Spidey sense, knowing where the guard's going to be. I was thinking of there is a point where there's actually a click in the background. And that's what I got it confused with. And that was definitely, I think, a gun cocking. But no, this clears it up. I can see in this panel, and if anyone knows and looks at the animal panel, you'll see right next to his shoulder this like, this imagery that just makes it clear that something's been noticed, and that's pretty cool. I can see why you dig it.
Yeah, and there's also, I think I also chose this panel because I was confused by it at first, where I was like, because I didn't know what the little action flash thing you're talking about there was. I was like, did he get hit? Did he catch the bullet? Like, I wasn't very sure what it was. And then I realized...
When you first showed this to me, I thought, wait a second, did Usopp catch a bullet? I was like, wait, no way. Like, well, that's got to be something he's getting ready to shoot, right?
Yeah, so I think that's what I liked about it the most. Once I really slowed down and looked at it, did the Jacob slow down and read the panel, like, look at the panel, I was able to recognize what he was doing. I was like, oh, that's a cool panel. I think that's really cool that he's, like... Because the panels leading up to this, he just shot the other guy, the guy who first drew. This guy right here, who's pulling out his gun in this panel, the one that I chose, is the guy he just bit. Right? Because the guy he just bit was like reeling from the pain. He shoots the other guy, and then this guy now is like animal pulling out his gun, and Usopp's he's a step ahead. Like, this guy's pulling out his gun. Yeah.
I love that you did this, because you made all the details make sense. Like, I think I actually probably glossed over this slightly too fast and didn't put together the through line you had there, which is, why would he call him animal? Because he just bit him. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
You know? And then Usopp's taking advantage of this moment to draw on him and get his slingshot shot off. So very, very cool. Though clearly not as cool as the taste of both Peter and myself. You can just go ahead and open up the message I've sent for the Chapter 27 panel battle, and it is the middle right image on that page.
Yes, this is a really cool action. This is such... I was so close to choosing this panel. My panel that I ended up choosing is right below it, right? But it's so cool. This is Usopp saying, I'm not going to let you stop me. And this is him. This is like, what would you say? A point of view shot looking at Usopp letting go of his, like, the bullet from his slingshot. Lots of action panels kind of going towards his slingshot. It's a lot, man. It's so cool. And we have the Froop automatopoeia like superimposed behind the actual action. It's so cool. There's a lot of cool things happening in this.
And, you know, just because there are such a lot of cool things happening, I'm going to let the rest of Peter's email kind of take us away and give us a guide into an analysis of this. So, with regard to the thematic panel battle for Chapter 27, my favorite panel is on page 17. Before the 60s, action sequences were predominantly drawn objectively for a diagrammatic effect and then stylized to have an impactful presence of physical force. With time, in the late 70s, Japanese artists started to subjectively orient a reader's perspective to align with the moving object, a wondrous effect that highlights the flow of movement within a series of still images and panels. Although there are many critics to Oda's artistic style, he is undoubtedly a very skilled artist. In this panel, he appropriately displays a proportionate foreshortening technique of movement that pushes toward the reader. With respect to the rule of complementary balance, the panel that follows after my highlighted panel is established as a foreshortening technique of movement that pushes away from the reader. As for the space within the panel, the origin of the projectile's movement is parallel to the space of impact on the following panel. Although the surface of Oda's art style may not appeal to many, if given a chance, his works are full of substance. And I'm going to break down a few of the finer points of that, because some of them are really cool.
Yeah.
And the first one is where Peter talks about this idea of foreshortening, and just to kind of give a quick breakdown on that, because that was something that Peter's email led me to kind of look up. Clearly, you see in this panel, right, the what is it called? The slingshot is pretty large, right? And it kind of appears to be coming out of the panel.
Yeah.
And the way you do that, it's kind of a understanding of perspective. When something is, you know, closer to you, it gets a lot bigger, right? Like the slingshot and the fist of Usopp are almost like the size of the face, right? Which is not actually what they are, right? In real life, the hand and the slingshot are probably smaller than Usopp's face, but because they're coming out at us, that's an example of foreshortening. And so that panel's foreshortening coming out at us, and then the next one, it's kind of the line of action kind of pushes the person that's falling over, foreshortening kind of going backwards. You know, the feet and the legs are now bigger, but it's moving away from us, right? As opposed to kind of coming towards us. And I believe the parallel thing that he's talking about is you kind of see that, it kind of looks a little similar to that splash of recognition that you mentioned before. You see where the bullet's kind of being released. If you just follow it as if like a straight line leading to the left, it lines up in the next panel with the one that hits the character in the face. So that's like drawing your line of your eye from this panel coming out at you to the next one right next to it. And I definitely wanted to take the time to read out Peter's explanation of all that, because I thought it was fantastic, and kind of gave more descriptive terms for what I think me and you noticed as just like the action being very panel to panel, having a lot of detail and having a lot of follow through. This is like now a little bit more of a solid breakdown of like maybe why that's the case and why it works so well for us. So Thanks so again to Peter for the awesome
Peter,
email.
That's super dope. All of that's so cool. I have to point out, like, the fluid motion of Usopp's kind of falling to the side to dodge the bullet while releasing. And that's like such a cool. He's just so cool in this little sequence in these like 2 pages here. Peter's right. Like, the action is so good. He's so good in this sequence.
This was very cool. And actually, you know what? We've been talking so much about our listeners in there. I wanted to kind of. I even liked how Peter sort of addressed this idea of, although the surface of Oda's art style may not appeal to many, and I actually don't know how common that line of thinking is, but it could have been caused, like, I just, as an example, I know that another listener of the Grand Line Tourist, another tourist herself, my mom, she definitely, I think, has a little bit of that feeling of, like, this art style may not quite be for me, but over time has gotten to recognize the details and, finds a little bit more in it. But it's kind of interesting to hear someone who really, like, I feel like understands the action also kind of recognize that this could do that to some tourists themselves.
I love it. This is awesome. I hope this is the start of everybody else starting to dump in their overanalyzed favorite panels into a panel. Like, this is it, man. These deep, really nerdy conversations about One Piece is what I look for. This is the sole reason why I started this podcast with the tour guide, with the tourist. Sorry, I'm the tour guide with the tourist Jacob, and like just trying to bring the rest of the tour guides and the tourists into this conversation just to see what you all think, because I love it. I love this stuff. I love talking about art in this very in-depth, dorky way.
Yeah, no, and it definitely makes us sound more intelligent when we have lots of more thoughts to bounce around in the room as opposed to just Eric and myself. So much appreciated.
Yes, now there's company to the madness that is Jacob and I.
Yeah, our brains were going a little insane in here. Can only take so much, Eric.
I don't know how I can respectfully leave this recording and not say that you guys, both you and Peter, took this panel battle. I feel like with the breakdown and everything that's thrown on the page, I think it's fair. I think that's what it is.
No, you can't believe how excited I was. Like, I had picked my panel before reading Peter's email, and I looked at the bottom, like, is this an attachment? And I'm like, oh, is it? And I was like, oh, it is. And I was like, yes.
I love how you and Peter have a line on panels way before you and I have.
Yeah, me and you, it's never going to happen. I don't know.
It will. One day it will.
One day. No, if we ever get a trip, like, I thought this was, like, this might have been one of our first and most probable chances for, like, all the tourists and tour guides out there that wrote in lining up with both me and you. I was like, oh, it could be a trifecta. And alas, it was not. And that's why I had to have you do it first, just to make sure, I wanted it to be legitimate. But we'll keep reaching for it.
Oh, yeah. Again, if you guys want to participate in the panel battles or just have some thoughts, share your thoughts with us, you can hit us up at grandlinetourist@gmail.com. That is our email that Jacob checks because it goes into his actual home mail, and then he'll therefore forward it over to me, which I will read maybe 30 minutes before recording. But if we end up getting...
I get them pretty fast usually. And I'll usually redirect it over to Eric, and whether he reads it or not, we'll find. It's always fun. It's actually good to have a little bit of a surprise to an email on the podcast. Yeah. One of us has read it, and one of us is getting it for the first time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fun. One day we'll flip those roles. All right. Let's to end. I mean, I think it's symbolic. We saw the slingshot come out. I think you and I both have to do our best imitation of a slingshot.
Okay. No. I think let's have you. Well, it'll be a battle. So you fire a shot or two, and then I'll fire a shot or two.
Okay. Here we go.